Lovely stuff there. Now, got an interesting one for you here, because once we're looking at Hare Krishna this morning. George Harrison and Hare Krishna, well, actually got some pretty close local links to that, which we'll hear all about in just a moment. There's once members of the Hare Krishna movement were a regular sight on streets across the two counties, but these days you don't see so many of the bright orange robes of the members. The faith once owned Croom Court, and its devotees were often seen in Pershore, Evesham and Worcester. But they do still have a presence in Worcester, as we're about to discover, because Worcester is to host a Hare Krishna festival next month. To tell us more, we're joined by Narada Das from Hare Krishna Festivals UK. Very good morning to you, Narada.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me on the show today.
Hey, it's lovely to have you here. I'm going to ask you, what's the weather like where you are?
The weather is raining.
It's abysmal this morning, isn't it?
It's raining today.
There's no respite from it. Now tell us, because the days of the Hare Krishna at Croom Court are remembered very fondly, but how much of an active presence in the area do you have these days?
Well, we have devotees living all over the country. I mean, one of the questions people ask me is, where are the bright saffron-robed devotees from the 60s and 70s and 80s? Well, my short answer is a lot of them have grown up. A lot of them went on to stop being monks, and they got married and they're living in houses. And most of the movement today, most of the Hare Krishna movement today are people that have got married, they're living in houses, they've got jobs. So, like members of other religious traditions, we're living relatively normal lives these days.
Well, for those who don't know much about the faith, how might it appeal to people during the turbulent times that we're in now?
That's a really good question, and the essence of Krishna Consciousness is based on some of the texts that come from India, and one particular book is called the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita has some very simple teachings that one, fundamentally, we're not the body. So actually, all these labels such as man, woman, Indian, English, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, they're all temporary labels. They're not really who we are. We're actually eternal spiritual beings, and we come from the supreme person, or the absolute truth, or the source. So all these things that we get frustrated by in the world, actually, they're all very temporary. That doesn't mean that they're not important or they're not valid, but they're just very temporary things. And actually, we're all eternal spiritual beings.
So this festival, talk to me about it. How does a Hare Krishna festival actually work? What sort of things are on offer?
Well, the most important thing to point out is it's a free event. It's a completely free event on the 10th of October in Worcester, and it's a chance for people to come along and find out about Krishna Consciousness, about philosophy, about yoga, meditation, about the teachings of the Gita, which were brought to the West by Srila Prabhupada, who was the founder of the Hare Krishna movement in the 60s, and alluding to your introduction, he's the guru that grew those connections with the Beatles, with George Harrison, and our temple in northwest London was donated by George Harrison. It's a beautiful temple. So they can come along and watch some video presentations, hear a talk, and have a free meal. So at all of our events, everyone is fed for free. It's a vegetarian meal. And it's kind of a no-strings-attached event. You don't have to come and join or convert. Just come along and listen and ask questions.
Really interested me when you mentioned about meditation and the sort of yoga element to it as well, because that is obviously very popular at the moment. Lots of people who might be involved in that, possibly tempted to come along and find out a little bit more. So to give us the details then. Where's it going to be happening, and when will it be happening? It's the 10th of October, and do you know where?
Yeah, so it's the 10th of October at 6:30 p.m. at the Horizon Hub, which is in Midland Road, Worcester, which is, the postcode is WR51DS. So that's at the Horizon Hub. So if they Google Horizon Hub Worcester, all the contact details will come up.
And I've got to ask, why Worcester in particular, or are these events going on sort of all over the country?
Well, I'm part of a team of devotees. We travel around the country putting on events all the time. We've just been to Ireland, we've been to Scotland, we're in London quite a bit, in Reading, and there are devotees living in Worcester, and they found the venue and they're sponsoring the venue, and there's quite a lot of devotees still living around the area. Some are younger, some are older, so we go wherever we're invited, and in October we're invited to Worcester, which is great.
Well, I'm sure you'll have an absolutely wonderful time when you get here. Just finally, tell me, what's sort of the average day? Because I'm always curious when I meet someone of a different religion, and I really like to probe questions in there. An average day, what does it look like for you, say today?
So we tend to get up quite earlier than the average person. So we get up early. Getting up early in the morning is very good for our spiritual consciousness, and we chant. So we chant on beads. So we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And generally getting up before 5 a.m. is very good. So we'll chant, we'll say prayers, and then we'll have breakfast. And then, if you're living in a temple, you carry on doing temple duties, or if you're living outside a temple, you can go to work, look after your family, and read books. We're very encouraged by our spiritual founder, woman, to read spiritual books as well.
Narada Das from Hare Krishna Festivals UK. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Normally, when I'm producing, I call people up and say, I always start with, thank you very much indeed for getting up nice and early for us. But as we just heard there, it's probably closer to lunchtime for you, Narada Das. Hare Krishna Festivals UK. Have a wonderful time. Welcome to Worcester when you get here. Can't wait to see you. For more details on that, visit www.harekrishnafestivals.com. Follow at HK Festivals UK on Twitter, or go to Hare Krishna Festivals UK on Facebook. Now, coming up after the news with